Tasks have many different features like our assignee, our due date, and more. Let's take a look first at assigning an owner to each of these tasks so we understand exactly who is responsible for completing them. Let's go ahead and assign myself as a task owner here for all these tasks. Now I can assign them out one by one, or I can click Shift on my keyboard, click assign like that, and now I can highlight all of these tasks by just clicking this bottom one with the Shift key held in, and then I can assign it like this. So you can assign tasks one by one if you just have a few. For example, let me go ahead and move that out of the way. And let's go ahead and just do it one by one, just like this. Or again, we can click Shift on this top task, hold the Shift button in, and then from there, we can highlight all these other tasks by keeping the Shift button held in and click like that. So one more time, that's simply clicking this top one here like this, and clicking this bottom task and going ahead and shift clicking just like that. So now we have all of these various tasks assigned out. Let's go ahead and assign them each a due date. For one-time tasks, this is very simple. We can go here and we can click add due date next to the task just like that, and we can start assigning out our due dates. In this case, let's just say we plan to do everything in one day. So we wanted to get everything done on November 17th, 2025. We could go ahead and click on each due date button next to each task just like that. And now each task is assigned a due date. If we needed to, we could also change it to other dates at any given time. It's absolutely no problem if you need to update or change due dates. And just like how we can shift click with our assignee, we can also shift click to assign task due dates in bulk. So I can go ahead and click my top due date. And from here, I can click the bottom one and I can assign these all out on the same day, just like that. So it's very helpful if you're assigning out, say, 10 or 20 or 30 tasks to do that in bulk, adding your assignees and your due dates in mass by using the shift click button. So we've got all of these one-time tasks assigned out. One-time tasks are very, very simple to do because generally you just have to assign a due date. You can also assign a start date as well. So for example, if I wanted to add a start date here, let's say that we wanted to start the task on the 15th, we could have the start date be on the 15th and then have the task due on the 17th. So we could see November 15th through the 17th just like that. Additionally, same thing with this task. If we wanted to set the start date, we could go in here, click the 15th like that, and then click the 17th like that. This just allows a little bit more of some specification as to when you want work started and when you want work complete. Now that we've got the due dates for one-time tasks sorted out, I want to show you how you can start adding repetitive tasks. Because while these one-time tasks are nice and they're very simple, they're not needing to be repeated like how our daily, our weekly, our monthly, and our yearly tasks are. So for our daily tasks, let's set these tasks to be repeated every single day. So what we're going to do here is we're going to click the due date like this. And because this is a daily task, I'm going to click set to repeat just like this. So it's this little set to repeat button, and I can go ahead and click that. And now I can add the frequency that I want it to repeat. In this case, because this is a daily task, it's in our daily task section over here. I'm going to go ahead and add the repetition or the repeat to be daily. What that means is once this task has this repeat daily added to it, when I mark this task as complete, it's going to create a new task that's the same exact task automatically for the next day. So this is how we complete our task within Asana. I click this little mark task complete button just like that. And then we can see here, this task is automatically created. So it's very powerful because you can start setting tasks to be repeated at any frequency that you want. There's a lot of awesome customization here. And all I need to do now is I can drag this completed task down into our archive tasks. I am going to show you how to add automation. So once you complete a task, Asana automatically moves it into your archive section, but we'll cover that in a little bit later in this course. Let's set the frequency for some of these other tasks here. So these other tasks are daily tasks. I'm going to go ahead and add them with a daily repeat. Repeats daily, just like that. And then from there, once we mark it as complete, it should do the exact same thing as the previous task. Now this task, check paid and unpaid invoices, has been duplicated after it's been marked as complete. So you can see this is very, very powerful. We'll go ahead and add our last task here, set this one due to be daily, and we can go ahead and mark it as done just like that. From there, it's created our duplicate task. We can move this to the bottom, and we have everything we need for our daily tasks set up. One small thing here, though, is I do recommend that you name your tasks with their frequency. For one-time tasks, I just leave them with no other naming convention like this. But for repetitive tasks, I call them one-time however often it's due. So you could see I structured my task names to be 1x daily, check email, 1x daily, check paid and unpaid invoices, 1 time daily, check all social media business related messages. That way I know that this is a repetitive task that's occurring. This is a good naming standard to have. And I personally have been using this for the past few years, and it really, really helps, especially when you start assigning out tasks to other people. That way they also understand this task is set at a specific frequency. Now, one thing I wanted to note here as well for repeating tasks, if this ever gets removed, if you clear the due date, it doesn't necessarily clear the repeat. It will clear the repeat though if you click clear like this. So if someone accidentally clears the task, then the repeat will be cleared as well. So if someone accidentally removes that, you lose the repeat, but you still have the name. So you still know, okay, this is a repetitive task and you know that it should have some sort of repeat. So it just helps to be able to keep everything in line just like that. Now let's look at how to create weekly repeating tasks. So for this task, we're going to do this 1 time per week, and this is checking our overall business progress. The simplest way to do this is clicking on due date like this, clicking on a repeat button, and then clicking repeat weekly just like this. So we can set it on any sort of due date that we like. In this case, I'll set this to repeat every Friday. So if I mark this task as complete now, it's going to go ahead and repeat or add a new task for next Friday because today's Friday. So it's going to move on to next Friday, just like this. So you're probably starting to get the point here. These weekly settings allow us to create really, really amazing processes that repeat every however often. And now I'm going to move on to the monthly section. So I'm going to set this monthly task. I'm going to set it on the second Friday every month to be repeated. So if I finish this task or I complete it now, this is going to repeat next month on the second Friday, which would be Friday, December 12th. At this point, you should have a very clear understanding of exactly how you can set your repeating tasks. So I'm going to go ahead and skip over the monthly and the yearly task here, these other two, and let's go ahead and go into actually looking at our task details. So once we've added a new task, either clicking add task like this or clicking add task in a section, we can go ahead and view our task options and our task details. So let's go ahead and create a new task. I'll call this test task. And all I'm going to do is go ahead and click on it like that. Or optionally, I can also click on details right here. From here, you can see we have a lot of different information. So we can go ahead and add someone assigned to this task, add a due date directly within here. And it's a little bit of a different interface than doing it right through the section view right there. We're actually looking at the task details. We can add it to different projects. So if I wanted to add it to another project, I could. We could set dependencies, which is a little bit too advanced. I'm not going to cover that right now, but we could also add what this task is about. So for example, we could add instructions. So we could say, must browse out to google.com, or let's just say browse out to google.com like this. Check the top 5 websites. So this might be a process for browsing out to, let's just say our competitors' websites. We'll call this one competitor research. Browsing out to google.com, checking out top 5 competitor websites, seeing what they're posting and putting them on one Google Doc that we can check them out very easily. This whole description allows us to put whatever we want in here. I like putting links. I like putting different types of instructions. Whatever you want to put in here, you could even put images, things like that. There's so many different things you can put in here. For example, I could add a picture of my beautiful self right in here like this. And you can see Asana supports pictures right in the description. One important thing here is the description is mainly to describe the task or what the task is about. Again, you can also throw in links, processes, things like that, but we're mainly focused on the aspect of what the task is about, instructions and things like that. The comments section below, this is where we're actually meant to more or less communicate with people on our team who are looking at the task. So for example, I could say, starting this task now, and comment it, or I could at someone by putting at. For example, if I had someone in here, I could also at them by pressing at and then their name. So I could at and say, hey, Nick, what's the status on this task? And we can overall communicate with people directly through here. Same thing as the description up here. We can also add different files. So if I want to add an image, I want to paste in like a Word document, PDF document, whatever it is, or a link. There's a bunch of different stuff we can do. You can even add your different types of reactions. We're not going to go too far into this, but comments, as you can see, you can communicate with your teammates, letting them know maybe blockers. For example, if I wasn't able to do this because internet was down, changing due date for Monday. We might say that, and that would give whoever's looking at this task an idea of why we didn't complete the task. Now, one thing here, this is our comments. All activity here shows all of the various activity on this specific task. So for example, if we change the due date, someone would be able to go in here and they'd be able to see, okay, someone just changed this due date to November 22nd. So for example, If we initially had this task as November 14th and all of a sudden the due date changed, we know exactly who changed it. Same thing if someone marks the task as complete or they unassign it. Let's say that someone unassigns it. We can see in here that someone unassigned the task and we know exactly who unassigned it. So this is really, really useful if you're ever confused about what's going on with the task, what modifications have been made to the task, or anything regarding really the task in general. All of those details will be here. It's almost the all activity. You could think of it almost as your task log where you can check all the different changes, almost like a change log. You can see all the changes to a task, everything that's happening within this specific task. Some other areas where we can customize our tasks include adding subtasks. These are incredibly powerful, especially for tasks that take a lot more work than just one step. So for example, we could add subtasks down here. And let's say that again, we're using the example of this being a competitor research task. So we might do compile research of competitors' websites, check competitors' pricing, check competitors' average reviews, and lastly, we might check something like competitors' social media. So you can see here, we went from having a competitor research task to having multiple different subtasks. This is where Asana really, really shines because you can create one task that covers many, many different areas. You can add multiple subtasks. Each subtask can have its own subtask task owner, and they can also have their own due dates. For example, let's say that we wanted all of our competitor research done by the 22nd. We might structure it so each subtask is being completed on a certain date or by a certain date. In this case, November 22nd, in about 8 days, is going to be when we want everything due. So we could structure it like this. We want competitor website research done by the 17th. We want competitor pricing done by the 19th. We want the competitor average reviews done by the 20th. And we want checking competitor social media done here by the 21st. So we can really start to build out an extremely wide array of tasks below one main task with our subtasks. Subtasks are a little bit more of an intermediate feature of Asana, but just keep in mind, you can also add different types of elements for subtasks. So let's say that we also had a basic task, right? Let's say that we had a task that was repeating and the task was checking paid and unpaid invoices. So let's say that we had 5 different clients that we check on a daily if they've paid our invoices. For subtasks here, we might be checking different platforms or different communication mediums to see if someone paid. So for example, we could check SMS to see if client number 1 paid, or we could just say check SMS or paid invoices. We might also say check email, check PayPal, and lastly, we might say check sell or paid invoices. Now, while you might not do this every day, it does give you an example of how you can start building out tasks, especially processes. Because in order for someone to mark this task as complete, checking paid and unpaid invoices, they would go in here and actually perform each subtask one by one, almost like a checklist. So you can structure your subtasks however you want. This is just one way that you can do it. You can keep it simple, or for your bigger research things or your bigger projects in general, you can make these kind of like subtasks sitting below a very, very important task. This one is just for a one-time daily task for invoices, but you can see here, we can build out some extremely powerful processes. Once all the subtasks are marked as complete, then we can mark the main task as complete here. And you can see here, when we marked this main task as complete, it also created the new task with the 4 subtasks along with it. So in addition to repeating the main task, repetition added to tasks or repeats added to tasks also creates the subtasks as well. And those are some of the most basic features of tasks within Asana. In the next video, we're going to look at some other areas within our projects as far as views go, as far as more advanced task features, columns, different types of areas that we can add different types of fields, and more.